Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Monday afternoon, July 6th. We are looking at the SPY ETF market profile here on Window Trader. And very, very quiet day as far as range and volume. We only did 55 million. Average is 110. I guess you could attribute that to people taking off the Monday after a 3-day weekend to wrap it around. Plus, it was a grind higher where our volume seems to get choked off anyway. Certainly the bulls won. However, they did nothing, and I mean they did nothing after basically the initial balance. We never took out the initial balance. It only happens 2% of the time. We do have a poor low, but we never took out the initial balance. M period did its own little thing after trading basically a good part below the opening for the afternoon. We had basically a 70 to 90 cent range most of the afternoon. We went back and forth through the opening 10 out of 13 time frames. That is total lack of conviction on either side. Yes, the bulls won. However, not in the greatest of fashion. They do finish above our 3-week balance size, so I'm putting it at a 6-week balance now. We are one time framing up for 4 days in the daily. But again, nothing convincing either way. It looked like the bulls were tired and the bears had no interest. Bears had chances. We dipped in and out of Thursday's range in B, C, J, and L and did nothing with it. So we did close the gap. That we did do. As far as my trading, it started off okay. Then it got rocky. I took some losses, and then I had 3 sizable short plays because I finally said, well, if this is what the market's given me, this is what I'm going to take, which worked out very nicely. So the first trade I did was in A period. I took a long versus the gap and higher value, turned into a nice winning trade. Then B did its usual reversal bar. It did it Thursday and it did it today, but a big difference today. Whereas C period continued the trend down in B, C, and D, which gave you a nice opportunity to short. This did not. This got no continuation and basically was traded sideways a good part of the day. I did take a long in B period, not at the high, but when it came back into range, turned out to be a losing trade because it came back. It took it somewhere inside A's range, took it off the table when we took out B's low. It turned out to be a loser. C, balanced inside. I took a long against the opening again. That one went up. That turned out to be a winner, but we couldn't take out the initial balance as we just traded in an inside bar. I thought D period would give us an opportunity. Coming out of an inside bar to the high, to the upside, maybe we'll get the open high. Never happened. And by the way, before we go any further, yes, I'm using this as B's high because B, when the ISM number came out, just spit up higher, and that became our high. Left about 12 ticks worth of pennies that we never traded at. Never got them either. But I am certainly using that as my high because it happened at the time in B period when we made a new high. So I didn't do anything in D. Then I took a long in E. I'm like, well, D took out C's high, and now D's taking out E's high. I think the odds of taking out the day's high is pretty good. Higher value, above the opening. We didn't see it in D. And I took a decent-sized trade, about 300 contracts. Sold them for a little, some of them for money, but then we kept going back and forth, and then we finally took out D's low, got out of the rest. That turned out to be a trade that worked out because I took out the majority of them up here. I took some out at the lows, but it was a decent-sized trade. So even though I sold them for only pennies up here, it was good size, so it didn't hurt me. Now, I did the same thing in I period, but this time I lost on it. Right? Then we traded down, looking for an afternoon pullback low. F, G, H, all trading around the same price. I finally didn't take out the opening. I got long. It popped the top, went nowhere, came back in, took it off, and I ended up losing on that. So then I was like, you know what? It's failing above the opening each time. If we stop one time framing up, I'm going to take a decent-sized trade. So J opened, took out the low, got below the opening, so we stopped one time framing, although I really even call it that because there's really more balance. Went back up. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be right, if is I going to be our afternoon rally high? Didn't do it up here, came back down right at the opening, took a size put play of 500 contracts, and then we started flushing. So all the frustration I had in all the other ones, this worked out very nicely. Took it off. I didn't wait for the low. I had some left, but took most of it off at F&H's low. I did that again that was J, right. I did that again in K period for a 300 share lot, and in L period, a 300 share lot. That one was against, now we were one time framing down, and we had the 144 that couldn't get above. So those three trades in J, K, and L really made it for a very nice day because the range was small. I thought my risk was minimal with the opening and eyes high, so that's why I took those size trades. I was looking for it to take out the poor low. I wasn't expecting a trend day down, that's for sure. And I was looking to go long if that happened, but it never gave me the opportunity. But 500, 300 size trades worked out very nicely. All right, destinations for tomorrow. For the upside, we have today's high, 317.68, and then filling the gap from June 11th. Now, the ES filled that gap, but because we have the dividend that was involved over this time frame since the 19th, we still haven't. So 318.22 fills the gap. We're down to 54 points. Then above that, we have 319.95, our perfect POC, 13 wide from June 10th, and 322.39 daily high. For the downside, we have 10 wide today at 316.56. Now, that POC also got lowered a couple of times. That's another reason I took those shorts. The POC was lowered a couple of times. I'm like, there's something just not right. I figured we would go get the low. We didn't, but those trades worked out very nicely. So 10 wide, 316.56. Then today's low of 315.56, which is a poor low. 313.61, which is 9 wide. That was an upside destination coming into today. It's a downside destination too, and a naked POC because we gapped above it and never saw it. And then 311.51, Thursday's low. Now, let's go to the charts. We had a pretty good day in the room today, even though it was kind of tough to call at times. It turned out to be a pretty good day. Monthly, one time framing up 2 months. We're above March's high, pretty healthy. Weekly, yes, we didn't get today's high, but we did get these 3 weeks highs, and for now are above it, right? 315.70, that's the key number to stay above. So I'm still calling it balance, and I'm just going to include all 6-week balance, not even including this week. But the bulls still with a nice advance. And then daily, one time framing up now for 4 days. Yes, the gap filled, just like it did on Thursday, but we are one time framing up. This entire balance, right, 315.70 is the high of it. We're above it. So, yes, this island reversal is still here in the SPY, not in the ES. So they would love to fill that, get involved in this 4-day balance, take that out. This is the next big and only thing standing, really, between the ES and SPY and the all-time highs, that huge gap from back in February. I hope you had a good day trading. Come check us out at camelbacktrading.org. We're 130 strong right now. We're growing every day. Great bunch of guys and gals in there, all experience levels, profile traders, other type of methods. It's a fun group to be involved with and associated with. Have a great night, and we'll speak prior to the opening tomorrow.